Asher and Penland on W4CY Radio.
Looking back at the days gone by, I reminisce and wonder why. All the things I could have done when I was young.
This is the Pipe Man here on the Adventures of Pipe Man W4CY Radio. And oh my God, I came in the studio today and there's no heat. And we're in South Florida, and who knew I'd ever have to worry about heat in my studio in South Florida. But that's why I'm all bundled up here on this interview. And the person we have with us, I mean, he's in Tennessee, so they had it a lot worse than us, I'm sure. So let's welcome to the show, JOHN CORABI. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. I actually, we both got the email, dressed appropriately. So
right. I'm like, I was thinking to myself too when I got in here. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look pretty stupid, all bundled up.
Well, you know what? I finally have power after, I don't know, Nashville. Unfortunately, I was just telling you, we had a snowstorm. Then it stopped snowing. It rained, but the temperature dropped like 20 degrees overnight. So last Friday, whenever it snowed, it was either Friday or Saturday, power went out about 5 o'clock in the morning because all the trees in Nashville, they were covered in ice, and the weight.
Wow.
They were just falling and pulling the power lines down and electric poles. And then the other oddity that I didn't realize could happen, as I was also just saying, I had 3 huge trees in my backyard, and I was sitting outside having a cup of coffee, and literally like 3 trees in my backyard just exploded and fell into my yard. And I was like, what the hell? You know, it was weird, but they were eventually, you know, the news was saying on our phones, because that's all we had for a few days,
Right.
was the sap was freezing and expanding and just blowing the trees out. It was literally sitting in my neighborhood. You could just hear them popping. Like it was like gunshots just going off around the neighborhood. So we finally, I think a majority of Nashvillians have power now, but it took them almost 10 days.
Wow.
And it was cold. My neighbor or a friend of mine just had their power go on last night, and she took a photo of her thermostat in her house, and it was 33 degrees in her house.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's been interesting, to say the least.
Well, you know, it's funny too, because in line with your new single, When I Was Young in the Northeast, it would have been no big deal. And now it's like, screw this. I don't want this crap anymore.
Well, you know, it's funny. I do love the Southern hospitality for the most part. I do love, there's something to be said about Southern hospitality and the usual friendly nature of people. But when it snows, you know, you know, you're in Southern Florida, so I imagine it doesn't snow there often. But when it snows here in Nashville, they are not prepared. It's like, you might as well just have a zombie apocalypse, because it's about the same, you know, whatever.
Well, let me tell you what they did here for safety reasons. A bunch of the venues near our studio that had live music this weekend canceled the gigs because of cold weather. Like that would never happen. And it was a trip on Saturday during the day. I was like, I kept getting these notifications on my phone. I'm like, what are they talking about? It's nice outside. Like it was like in the 70s. And then all of a sudden these like 45-mile-per-hour winds kicked up when the sun went down. And we went down to like, my phone said 34 feels like 12.
Yeah, that's for Florida.
Right.
That's like living in Greenland. So
Maybe that's what it is, because, you know, the guy that wants Greenland, he's right by our studio. So maybe he's just trying to get people comfortable with the idea. I don't know.
who knows? You know what? Let's. That's one subject I wish to avoid altogether.
Oh,
is
yeah.
Politics.
I'm just laughing that you made the Greenland comment where I am right now. But I'm all about the music, because I tell you what, I have this idea that if we had like one major music festival that everybody had to go to throughout the whole world, we would end all the bullshit that's going on around the world, and we could all unite, because it's the best therapy and the best uniter. And you got some new music that's really badass.
Thank you. So, just out of curiosity, were you able to hear the whole record or just the tracks that are out right now?
I just got part. I didn't get the whole thing yet, but I
Okay.
liked the parts that I heard.
Okay. Yeah, they normally send out some sort of a link where you can't really download it, but you can click on it anytime and just listen to it. And everybody that's gotten the link and heard the whole record you know, honestly, the response and the feedback that I'm getting has been incredibly, overwhelmingly positive. So I'm very happy about that. And you know, life is awesome in John Corabiville.
So, how does it feel to like be doing this for all these years and then put something out like this that is just you being totally you and exactly how you want it to be?
You know what? I got to be honest with you. Like, I see it's funny how a lot of these YouTube videos will just grab a comment for a thumbnail, you know. And I remember I was doing a conversation maybe about a year ago, and I made a comment like, yeah, sometimes I wonder why my bank account doesn't look like, you know, Nikki Sixx's or Steven Tyler's. So they ran with that, made me look like a complete idiot. But it's funny, man. I've kind of I had an odd path in my musical career, and I've had some ups and I've had some downs, and you know, it just made me reevaluate some of the things, or the things that are important. And so I tend to look at the little things, you know, like, I don't know, health, the fact that we wake up at our age, the fact that we even woke up and we're able to start a new day, you know what I
No
mean?
doubt.
No pun intended, is a blessing. And if you would have asked 16-year-old John Corabi if he'd still be doing this at 66 or 67, I probably would have said no. So you know, honestly, again, I just did my, you know, this is my 19th record of new material. I still get to travel. I'm getting ready to go on tour with the guys, start in Europe and the UK. And, you know, life is good, man. I'm still able to make music and do interviews. People still have some interest in talking to me, as we're doing right now. So I just feel blessed. You know what I mean? I don't, you know, long story short, I just feel every day very blessed that I'm able to do something I enjoy doing, and I still make, you know, a reasonably good living at it. So life is awesome.
It's also awesome too, because as somebody myself who was my dad moved me to from New Jersey to in 1980 to LA, where I hung out on the Sunset Strip and all over there during my teenage years. And the fact that we even made it to this level of life and got out of that alive, that's a blessing in and of itself.
Yeah, again, without being political, I find it humorous that a lot of my friends that I knew back in the day on the Sunset Strip, for whatever, to each his own. But some of them were like, having a hissy fit about the masks and the COVID shots and all this other kind of stuff. And I just laughed. I'm like, bro, the last time I saw you, you were snorting cocaine off a toilet seat at the Rainbow. Like,
Right?
seriously, this is what's driving you crazy right now.
Oh,
So
no doubt, no doubt. Like some of the stuff that went on back then, oh my God, that you would even worry about anything now blows my mind.
yeah, dude, it's like I remember, I don't know how old you are, but again, I'm gonna be 67 in April. And it's like, dude, I drank water out of lead spigots in the 60s, straight out of the thing, fire hydrants. We would turn fire hydrants on in the summer, painted in lead paint and all, and I'm like, okay, whatever, eating a little sugar isn't going to kill me.
Right? Yeah, I'm 59, so yeah, like you weren't even allowed to come home if you were thirsty and you knocked on the door and said, I'm thirsty. Your parents told you to go drink out of the spigot. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it was like, what was Kool-Aid made of back then? It was like, magic marker juice.
right.
You know what I mean? It was like, whatever. But, like things have changed a bit, so that's why I'm just like, I just laugh at, actually both sides of the fence, things that people get upset about. And I just laugh and I go, you know what? This is me just driving in my lane, man. I'm just keeping my mouth shut, doing my thing, and to each his own.
Exactly, man. My viewpoint is like, if you really don't focus on certain things, they don't really affect your life in that great of a way, if at all. So like, just enjoy what you enjoy and be you. That's my thing, and that's why I think it's great for people like you to be able to still keep creating music. Like, and I'm in awe of it, to be honest, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, after all these years in the business, how do you still keep up and coming up with new material?
It's obviously you don't want to repeat yourself,
Right.
So, but you know what, honestly, like, there's a few songs on this record, I've had people ask me like, like what made you write the lyrics to New Day, or what's the, when I was young. And if you're just kind of look around you and and again, we're inundated 24/7 news cycles of goofy stuff every day. There's plenty of shit to write about, you know what I mean?
No, no.
So I just look at life, put pen to paper, try and come up with a melody that I haven't used before in the past. And but if you just look around you, there's plenty of stuff to write about.
Oh yeah.
You know, trust me. So, maybe next year I'll write a song called Exploding Trees. I don't know,
Right?
That
would actually be a pretty cool song. I can
Yeah.
see that as a cool song. But it is amazing. There is always things to write about, isn't there? Like, I think there's a lot of things to write about in the 80s that, are similar things you could write about today.
Yeah, honestly, doing this record, the only plan that I had doing this record when I sat down with Marti Frederiksen, for those who don't know, very good friend of mine. He's playing guitar with me in the band, but he's a incredible producer, songwriter. And I've had the pleasure of doing several records with Marti. And but he's like, so what do you want to do, Crab? And I said, when I was growing up, and I think this is something you could probably relate to, we just listened to music. And it wasn't unusual for a kid like me to go see, Black Sabbath or Zeppelin on a Monday and then go see Cat Stevens or Jim Croce the next day, and then go see a prog rock band like Yes or Jethro Tull. You know what I mean? We just went,
Totally.
we just loved music. My mom had a massive record collection. So in my house, we were listening to everything from, uh, Johnny Cash, Frank Sinatra, Trini Lopez, to Led Zeppelin, Sabbath, Kiss, whatever. So my biggest thing doing this record, didn't know what I was going to write about. All I told Marty is I want to go back to the day when the bands, and again, you'll understand this, but the bands that I grew up listening to didn't have rules.
Yeah.
They were allowed to be creative, regardless of what it meant. There was no boxes. Nowadays, you work in radio, you work in the music industry at all. As soon as you come up with a song or an album, everybody, the suits, I'll call them, the people in charge, immediately try to figure out, okay, what box does this record go in?
Mhm.
Is it heavy rock? Is it classic rock? Is it, Americana, country, blah, blah, blah. And they're just trying to put things in a box. And I didn't want that. And, even somebody heard the record and they were like, oh, you're living in Nashville now. So I can kind of hear like in some of the songs, a bit of a country influence. And I go, not really. It's got nothing to do with Nashville at all. And then I kind of proceeded to tell him, I said, listen, man, like, to me, music started with really American music, started with the blues.
Yeah.
That was the root. And then all these little offshoots started coming off, whether it be country or rockabilly or rock, whatever. It all came off of that tree trunk. You know what I mean? And I said, if you go back and look at the early Beatles, the Beatles covered Buck Owens' Act Naturally.
Yeah.
That's a Buck Owens song. And then if you listen to bands like the Rolling Stones, you have songs like Honky Tonk Woman, I'm Just Waiting on a Friend, Dead Flowers. They, in this day and age, they could be considered country songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even a band like Led Zeppelin, I think it was it In Through the Outdoor? They wrote a song called Hot Dog, which is kind of a rockabilly.
It's kind of Americana type of song.
So, but that's what I loved about all those early bands. I love bands like AC/DC and Priest and Iron Maiden that do what they do and they do it well. But I was more inclined to listen to the bands when you went track to track. You had no idea what was coming next. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
And I just wanted to get back to that. The Creedence Clearwater Revivals, the Bob Segers, and, some of these other bands that I just mentioned, Zeppelin, Beatles, Stones, so that was my only rule doing this record. No boxes. We're just going to write. And if we like it, it's going on the record, period.
I love that because think about it. The Beatles and Zeppelin both. I mean, almost every album was a different type of genre if you labeled it by today's standards.
Yes. And that was the brilliance, and I'm a bit of even though I've been doing this for 170 years, I love like music trivia. I'm a bit of a nerd. My wife laughs all the time because I'll tell her, she's a bit younger than me. So I'll sit there and tell her stories about, the Beatles sold out Shea Stadium in 6 weeks, but Grand Funk Railroad did it in 72 hours. And, all this weird stuff. And, the fact that Zeppelin locked themselves away on Zeppelin 3 and did what a lot of people considered was their acoustic record. You know, and they got slack for it. They got a lot of shit for that. You know what I mean? So I just love the brazenness and the creativity of some of those old bands. You know, and then it was funny. It was funny after Zeppelin 3, they locked themselves in the studio. They said, all right, you know, and they get together and they did what is considered their masterpiece, Zeppelin 4,
Right.
you know. But then they said, well, you know what? We're not going to put our name on the record. There's nothing on the cover or the back that even remotely says Led Zeppelin. They're like, nope. The label was like, you can't do that.
I remember that too.
Yeah, you cannot do that. And guess what, folks? That record went on to sell 26 million copies.
Well, and look at, like, it happened with a lot of bands. Look at Metallica's Black Album.
Yeah. You know, and it's just, I love bands that are not afraid to go against the grain. You know, and just do what's in their heart, you know, do what's in their head, whatever sounds they're hearing. You know, I know a lot of people give Metallica grief over the Saint Anger album. But
I actually liked the album, and I was at their first show ever in LA, and I liked the album.
Yeah, it's like they did what they wanted to do. And
Yeah.
and my thing was the only thing that I wanted to do on this record was just write some really great classic 60s, 70s sounding record, you know, songs. And I did not want to be pigeonholed and put into any box.
As you shouldn't be. Like, you were bringing up the Suits before. I believe the Suits have their place, but their place should not be in the creativity. Leave the creativity to the artists and the business end to the Suits. That's my viewpoint. Because if you're the artist, you know what creativity is flowing out you. It's not a formula. It's just something that comes from inside.
Yeah, and it's, you know, everybody's got their thing, you know, and I agree with you. I agree, like, a band should formulate their sound, put their album together, and then turn it in, and it's up to the manager and the record label to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like you said, the creative part has to lie with the band. I mean, you know, I've never been a guy I'm just not one to just go through the motions of, you know, and do something for the buck. I just can't do it. So to me, you know, I've had, you know, all throughout my whole career, people are like, well, you know, this record, you know, what were you guys thinking when you did this record? Or, you know, were you guys trying to write, you know, whatever, this song for radio or da da da? And I'm like, no, I've never been that guy, especially in the Scream, that very first band that I had. I learned a very valuable lesson. We were up to be on MTV with the Man in the Moon video, and we got bumped. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row. We were scheduled to have our video release on, you know, MTV was going to put it out. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Bart Simmons, they did a thing called the Bartman.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was a video, and they released it, and it bumped us 2 weeks in a row. So at that point, I went, you know what? All I can do is the best I can do in the studio and writing the songs. And after that, I have no power over that. If that's what, you know, the Suits want to put on, then, you know, have at it. So it is what it is.
Well, my hat's off to you for staying true to being an artist, especially from those times, because there's so many that didn't, and then later they wanted to go back to it, but once you stray, it's kind of hard to go back to being who you are and
Well,
people wanting it.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like again, you write songs. To me, if I wrote songs that I thought uh, would work with other people and not stay true to myself first, then I'm going to be sitting on stage playing songs that I'm miserable about.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's like I'm just doing it for the cash,
And people
and
can tell. Like
and
if
they
I'm
can
out
see
there, I
that.
can tell.
Yes, the audience can see that. So my thing is, if if it if the song is kicking me in the ass, I'm good. Put it on the record, and then let the chips fall where they may. So you know what, though, so far so good. We released 2 singles from this thing, and the response has been great. I'm getting, like I said, great reviews, positive feedback from the fans. That's all I can ask for.
And what I heard from it too is going back to what you were talking about, even because I say it a lot these days, is like going back to those times of actual musicianship. Instead of just having a formula, it's real music. It's real.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, to each his own. Again, like I've been asked, especially with, because I was in the band for a minute, once Mick and Motley were doing their thing back and forth, and there was all this talk about, you know, uh, lip syncing and tapes, and all these people ask me, how I feel about it, and I'm like, it's irrelevant how I feel. It doesn't matter, and I know there's plenty of bands. I can't remember that. God, they were huge there for a minute.
Oh, Milli Vanilli.
No, no. Well, I mean, even Milli Vanilli, like they were massive, and then they're like, oh, the tape skipped, and they were lip syncing, and you know, but bands like Def Leppard, I think they're great. One of my wife's favorite bands. We go see them anytime they're in Nashville. We go see them, and it's obvious that there's some enhancements going on. Joe's singing, the band's playing, but there's some backing tracks going on. Even in Motley, when I was in the band, we used some backing tracks to enhance the backing vocals. And uh, like we had a song called Misunderstood, which had a 63-piece orchestra. But Mick was playing, I was playing, Tommy was playing, Nikki was playing, and we just used the orchestra part, you know. So bands have been doing this forever. And if that's what they choose to do, awesome. Great. Have at it. I'm not going to judge somebody for trying to make their show the best they can, you know. Now, do I do it? No. Like I like personally, I like the old Stones Aerosmith approach, just a wall of amps, just go out there. If you have five-part harmonies, on the studio album, then okay, so Mick and Keith are just going to cover it now. You know what I mean? They find the best two, and that's what they sing
I think
live.
it's better that way anyway. Like live music should, like some of my favorite experiences of live music were screw ups because then you knew it was real. Like I have talked about this before on my show. You probably remember, like I was there at the S Festival in 1983 when David Lee Roth forgot the words to Ain't Talking About Love.
Mhm.
And he just said it to the crowd. He said, I effing forgot the words. And the whole place cheered. 300,000 people cheered. And I was cheering too. To this day, I think it's one of the greatest moments.
Yeah, but for me, I was just more like again, if Aerosmith, I've seen Aerosmith like God 50 times. and it was more about the power, the rawness.
Yeah.
You know, everything in the studio was polished, but live it was just in your face, kick your ass, and just go. And that's how I, approach. There's nights where I get on stage and I go, ooh, I don't know, I'm not not feeling it. Don't know if I'm going to be able to hit that note. So guess what? I changed the melody a little bit. So I just so it's more about the rawness, the live thing, just whatever. But again,
I agree.
to each his own, man. I'm not here to judge somebody for what they're doing, how they're doing it, whatever. The
No,
fans
but a true artist, like does what works for them,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody saw Starry Night by Van Gogh and went, it's a lot of blue, buddy. It's a lot of blue. Like,
Right?
back it down a notch. You know what I mean? But it's like, it is what it is, man. Whatever.
So how do people go and check out the new album? How do they connect with you on socials, check out tour dates, all that good stuff?
Well, there's johncorabi.com. There's John Corabi official Instagram, John Corabi official Facebook. The new songs are all over YouTube. They're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the streaming sites. So if you know how to spell my name, you can find me. Just please ignore the FBI most wanted stuff.
I know, right? Some things have to stay in the 80s.
Yes. All I know is I can honestly say I was not on Epstein Island.
Well, there you go. And I can honestly say that I love the fact that whatever happened at the Sunset Strip, there's no record of it.
That we know of.
That we know of. It's just talking about this the other day about like nowadays, everybody takes their phone and records when they go to a show. And I'm thinking, man, you didn't even think about that. You just went to a show and enjoyed, and you didn't even care about having pictures or anything like that.
No, not at all. You know what I mean? And even now, like, I don't, I have a bunch of fans ask me all the time, like, hey dude, are you cool with us like filming your show with our phones or cameras? Or I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out. I mean, the amount of money you guys are paying for the freaking tickets.
I know, right?
Yeah. And it's like, is everything always going to sound stellar? No, but this is a face that doesn't care. Like,
there it is.
There's not going to be, there's some videos that are going to be distorted. Sounds like I'm singing a little out of tune, but I hope that the people that were there will stand up in my defense and go, nah, it's just distorted. He wasn't singing out of tune. It's all good.
I love it. I love it. I love the attitude you have. I love your new music, all of your music, but everybody definitely has to check it out. And, there's lots of stories we could talk about of when I was young, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there is.
And it's a new day for John Corabi.
From your mouth to God's ears, my friend. Yes.
Well, thank you for still giving us great music and artistry after all these years. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
And you know what? Thank you for the invite to talk.
Anytime, brother. Anytime you need any kind of talk or promotion of your music, I'm there for you.
All right, buddy. Stay warm. And when you're walking under trees, careful those falling iguanas.
I know. I was taking a walk last night, and it's like dodging bombs.
So, just not to sound weird, are they just like in like some sort of suspended animation, or
yeah? No. It's their protective thing to basically so that they don't get sick or nothing happens to them. They get in this catatonic state.
So it's kind of like the alligators with their nostrils out of the water in the freezing.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man.
It's pretty wild. I've seen it. It's wild.
I wish I could do that. I would put myself to sleep and wake up like, well, no, never mind.
I might want to go backwards.
That's what I was just
that
thinking,
out.
yeah.
If I
could way to go backwards.
If I could figure that one out, that would be stellar right there.
Yes. All right, my friend. Well, stay warm, buddy.
You too, brother.
Hey, kids. This is John Corabi, and you are listening to The Pipe Man on W4CY Radio. Turn it up.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.